a suit and tie and get your hair cut way up high. Get yourself a lawyer, son. You're gonna need a real good one.
Tell you what, David Whiting's become a bad boy, judging by the musical introduction that he receives these days. It's been a long time since I had a chat to David on the wireless, and the introduction was a little bit different to that one. I just wonder what's changed. David, is that a nose ring that you've got there?
No, it's Perry Mason followed by Tex Perkins.
Yeah, no, I know, but the Tex Perkins aspect of it is very. I mean, there's a bit of dirt in that.
He was appearing at the Brunswick Ballroom a few weeks ago. I nearly went, but the date didn't suit me. So maybe next time.
Sorry, that's your update.
That's my update.
I nearly went to a show and didn't.
Yes.
This is what happens when you don't have homework from the previous week. I've never known this to happen. How many times would we have done this segment? A few dozen?
Yes, yeah.
And
over a long period of time.
Over a long period of time, and every time.
There was always something. Something's got to keep me busy, but it was perhaps it was last week was after a long weekend and people were a bit low and, they put up with whatever answer I gave them last week.
Or no legal problems arise on a long weekend.
That could be.
Too thorny.
That could be.
This creates a problem for us, if I may lift the fourth wall. Normally the homework bit is the bit where we get to have a chat, introduce a segment, people register the segment's happening, they call in, 1300 222 774, gives time for them to call in, figure out what the problems they want to put to you are.
Oh, Wally, that is so untrue. We know that people ring before 10 o'clock and the producers say, would you mind ringing back at 10?
Oh, is that what happens?
Yes.
They don't tell me that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll just ask. Producer Katrina, is that what happens? No, she's shaking her head. Oh, she can't say a word, she says to me. Oh. Anyway, I think we've banged on just enough.
Okay.
That we've got a couple of callers.
Good.
1300 222 774 if you want. So we sometimes call this free legal advice, but I worry that that's legally problematic to say that.
To whom?
Well, if we call it legal advice, doesn't that imply a certain level of legal accountability?
I am accountable for whatever I say.
No, I understand that, but
yeah.
that's different to giving legal advice. It's not being paid for, there's no exchange. Doesn't change it?
Now, Wally, I know you have a law degree.
Yeah.
So you may recall a case called MLC and Evatt.
Yes.
Where Doc Evatt was the leader of the Labor Party, I think it was, and his case was this, is that he had rung the MLC company, I think it was in the 50s, and he got some gratuitous advice that he relied upon to his detriment. And he sued them, and the argument that they ran was that it was gratuitous legal advice for which he did not pay. He was therefore not entitled to rely on it. And he won.
He won?
He won. He was entitled to rely on it. So
I can say free legal advice.
You
That's
can
the upshot.
say free legal advice.
Yep. All right. And if you don't like the advice or it all goes wrong, what's the email address to sue you?
I think it's... I can't remember.
Negligence at davidwhiting.com,
yeah,
something like that. All right, good. Jennifer has called in from Glenroy. Hi, Jennifer.
Hello, David and Wally. Thanks for taking my call. We are owner-occupiers. In October of last year, our townhouse sustained damage to its roof during the storms that we had. We immediately rang our body corporate and were told we had to go through body corporate insurance to fix the issue.
Yes.
And we were told at that time, in all likelihood, there would be no excess because the damage was caused by a storm.
Yes.
The work was completed in December of last year. We didn't hear anything about it and we thought, great, no excess. In February, we received a chain of emails that included an invoice. However, the invoice was forwarded to the body corporation by the company that undertook the repairs, and it did not include our names or full addresses. We then spoke to a representative from the body corporate who told us that if we wanted the damage to the roof repaired, we would have to pay the excess.
Yes.
And then I explained to her that the damage had already occurred and had taken place, and she was utterly confused and said she would need to investigate the matter further.
Right.
We just received the invoice for our body corporate fees, and on that invoice, they've also put the insurance excess amount. Are we obliged to pay that?
Jennifer, the answer is probably.
Okay.
And
right.
the reason why is that there's a provision in the Owners Corporation Act about Section 27 that says that if work is done primarily for the benefit of one unit, then the Owners Corporation can pass the buck. All right.
So even though the work's being done and even though we haven't been invoiced until about 8 months later, we're still obliged to pay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks for the
Jennifer.
clarification, David. Bye.
Wow, you gave bad news and she was happy about it. Well, not happy,
Well,
but she was...
yeah, there was a couple of cases as to who pays for repairs on common property where someone else benefits,
Yeah.
and it really weirdly depends upon whether it's within their maintenance budget or not.
Whose
So
maintenance budget?
if it's within the owner's corporation maintenance
right.
budget, it's on the basis of unit in liability. If it's outside, so it's extraordinary work, it's whoever benefits most pays most. Jennifer's roof, Jennifer pays.
So why that distinction? Is there a reason, like a philosophical
there
reason?
was, I think the answer would be that if I have collected the money from everyone to do certain work, then everybody should pay.
Right.
So it's
If you're all in at the beginning, whereas if
Yes.
it's an
it's
extra
extraordinary,
thing, then
then we want you to, the person who benefits should pay.
all right. Paul has called in from Drysdale. Hi, Paul.
Yeah, hi. Look, I'm ringing up. I'm trying to save a tree. It's a nature strip tree. It's an old tree. It's about 150 years old. It's out the front of the commercial premises in Drysdale. It's a panel beating shop. And 6 months ago, it changed hands. And what they did was they concreted the front apron of their property, 20 metres by 10 metres, and put in 2 crossovers. So what they effectively did was cover the roots of this tree, this ancient tree, with concrete.
Yes.
Now, I have since tried through Facebook and a variety of means and going through council to try to save this tree, and I have been met with a stone wall. The tree is now dying. The leaves are falling off the tree, and I'm now seeking a legal remedy, and I was just wondering whether David could help.
Paul, it's not your tree. You
That's
might
right.
go back to, it's the City of Greater Geelong, isn't it?
That's right.
Why don't you go to Geelong and see if they got a permit for the crossover? And if they didn't get a permit for the crossover, you might get the council to order that the crossover be removed, which would go some way to allowing water to the root structure.
David, it's beyond that point. The majority of the tree's roots are on this property because it's up against the street. It's obviously got the street that goes over the rest of the roots.
Yes.
I have been through council. The ward that I am in is the local mayor. So I've approached council on a variety of levels and a variety of ways, and the response is, oh, well, we're sorry about the crossovers, but there's nothing we can do.
Paul,
I now want to
there's
seek a
2
legal
questions
remedy.
here, right? What can Paul do other than from the call to programs like this and the agitation with the council? The answer's nothing, because
Yes.
it's not your tree.
Well, this is the 5th call to radio stations,
Oh,
so I
okay.
would agree.
All right.
I would agree. There does not seem
There is
to be
no
a response.
legal remedy open to you. There might be a remedy open to council, but it's not open to you.
Okay, all right.
Paul, do you have the sense that council would take or be interested in the legal remedy even if it were open to it?
I honestly don't know. Look, this tree is in a town that hasn't shown a lot of interest, so I just don't want the tree to die without mention.
Understood.
Well, it's got a mention today. And I have to say, you're concerned for its moving. Like there's something very admirable about what you're trying to do here. The law doesn't always line up on the side of admirable intentions, though, does it?
Really.
Really?
I tell people, Wally, that there's no law course called justice.
Right.
Right? I was talking to someone the
I
other day.
have
His
actually-
daughter was doing law at Monash. I said, is there a subject called justice in the Monash Law School? And the answer to that is no, nor is there a course called justice in the Melbourne Law School.
No,
So-
it'd be in the arts program under philosophy
absolutely.
or something, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paul.
Sorry about the news on that. Good luck with your agitation.
All right, thank you.
All right, let's go to John. John's in Brunswick. Hi, John.
Good morning, Wally, Derek. I have a question. My neighbor is extending his house, and it just happened so at the same time the fence between us has to be replaced as well. And he's proposing to have the fence actually rebuild a bit into his property to suit his building plans.
Inside his
And-
property. It's often
his
most calls
property.
are about, I want to build a fence that's slightly
Yeah, but-
more into my neighbour's property than the current one.
Yeah, but this is into his property. So And I said, yeah, not a problem. I just want to find out if I need to do anything, just in case, potentially, say, if he sell in a few years and then the new neighbor comes and check the title and say, oh, look, it's on the wrong side, you want it.
John, how
back
far are
end.
we moving it?
Oh, it's not much. It's only probably, I think, 100 to a couple hundred millimeters the most. I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, there've been wars fought for that much space, John. So,
Yeah.
is he proposing to give you the land on your side of the fence?
Well, I think he basically say, yeah, he said that much land, I don't mind, because I told him.
The expectation, John, is that the fence is built on the right property line or on a line
Yeah.
where it's been for at least 15 years. If you're happy with him building the fence, I don't see there's an issue, except when you go to sell your property, you need to make it clear that you don't own the land between the old fence line and the new fence line. So that's the minor complication that you need to make it clear to anyone who you sell your property to.
Right, okay. So do I need to keep any record or like,
No, just keep it.
Not
Just to
really.
keep a copy of the exchange of emails.
Oh, no, because it's
Just a phone call.
it's verbal.
Okay,
Yeah,
then
it's
make a
verbal
note.
because I
Make a
talk to
note
him all the
somewhere.
time.
Do you have your?
Yeah.
Leave it with your lawyer, or put it with your title if you've got your title.
Yeah. Okay.
And in the years to come, no one's ever going to remember, John.
Yeah. Okay.
The other option is you could buy that 100 or 200 mil and get it added to your title, but that's going to cost you some money, so I'm not sure I'd spend.
Yeah.
And if he's paying for the
probably don't
fence,
want
I'd be grateful.
I'm sorry?
If he's paying for the fence, you should be fine.
No, he's not paying it. Oh, we're sharing the
We're
fence.
sharing,
But he's just saying, yeah. It's part of, because we have to pay 50-50, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
Because
the
the
general
fence is
proposition
broken
is
down
it's
anyway.
50-50, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
All right, thanks.
It's like a reverse adverse possession.
Yes,
Case.
unless, of course, he's putting the fence back on what is the proper title line anyway and doesn't want to explain why. Anyway, who knows? But
Always
where
feels
he
fun.
ends up with is a problem that his front fence no longer matches his side fence that someone will pick up at some point.
Yes.
Yes.
And at that point, things get fun.
Yes.
And you get calls.
Yes.
Yeah. And paid legal advice. Be good. David is in McLeod. Hi, David.
Morning, gents. Thanks for taking my call. I own my property that was subdivided in the early 80s between two properties now, and the neighbour property is owned by the DHHS. It currently shares about 80 square metres of shared land and a common or strata title, and I'm talking to them about dissolving that into an equal partition or something that's going to work, because I'd like to redesign or rebuild my carport. Now, they've interpreted a clause in there, and they seem to think that they were owed more land during the subdivision, and have pretty much said that the only, result they would accept is them reclaiming land off my title, and have pretty much refused any further negotiations and won't come to the table.
So what
So-
you have is two titles and a small area of common property, and you want to change that into two independent blocks of land.
Correct. The common land is just a shared driveway and a little bit of grass area.
Yes.
And I would like to just redesign my carport for better access, and I'm happily give them more of the land. Essentially, I just want enough to make my carport work. But they basically said, we actually think we're supposed to have more of your land, and they won't come to any further discussions, and have said that's the only acceptable outcome for them. So.
Okay, and what's your answer to that?
Well, I don't really think they can only proceed with that if I agree to annul the subdivision. So they can't do anything about that. But I'm wondering if there's any legal recourse for me to say or get them to.
You mean to compel them to be reasonable and see it your way?
Well, no, just to come to the party and discuss. I'm not looking for more land or I just want a small portion of my land, but they won't even discuss it. And I'm just wondering if there's anything legally I can do to ask them to at least look at the proposals and discuss things with me.
Well, they've already looked at the proposal. They've rejected the proposal. And the answer is that you need to come up with a new proposal that they can take into account.
So they've only said that the only proposal they will accept is by them reclaiming land that they believe they were owed due to some clause in the strata title. They won't look at any proposals.
David, you need to sit down with someone and work through the plan. A salesman will tell you that people never change their mind. They make a new decision based on new information. You've got to give them new information. Just to tell them they're wrong isn't going to get you there. Someone needs to sit down, go through the plan and put it to them in a way that they can understand that they are not being disadvantaged in any way by your proposal. But you can't force them to negotiate. They can force you can't, because they're the government, but you can't enforce that. You can't force them.
Okay, is the only other option VCAT if there's nothing works out?
No. At VCAT and in the court system, we're talking about the enforcement of a right. Now, all you have is the right to ask them to negotiate. You don't have the right to force them to an outcome. It would be like if I lived next in the unit next door and I disagreed with you. Well, you could take me to VCAT, but VCAT can't come along and say, David, you've got to do what David from McLeod wants.
One of the issues is they've interpreted, or their surveyor has interpreted one of the clauses in the subdivision to mean that they should have had more land, where I've got a written statement from the original surveyors that actually disproves that. But
no, what you have, it's the document which is produced, which is evidence of the right. What you've got is a document that was evidence of the intention in the 80s, but it's what exists now that determines what people's rights are. Now, your problem is, David, you're at the I need you to be reasonable and see it my way because I'm right. But you can't force people to take your view of the world.
I understand. I'm just wanting to talk to them, but no one will actually talk.
Well, they have talked to you and they've said no.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, David.
Yeah. All right.
It's about the meaning of talk, isn't it?
Yes, so we're going to have a discussion, but you can't force me to a position.
We don't do legal advice via text in this segment.
The difficulty is, well, where do I do the follow-up question?
It would be very hard, yeah.
Yes.
So 1300 222 774 if you want to ask questions. I say that because I've got a few texts asking questions. But we have had some follow-up things on ones that we've already done.
Yes.
So Peter in South Richmond says, re the Drysdale tree issue, could he not seek to list it as significant on the National Trust Significant Trees Register? That seems very highfalutin to me.
Yes.
Is that an option?
It would appear to be, yes.
Is it hard to get
establish something? What renders it significant other than its age?
I don't know. How old does it have to be significant?
Well, I don't know that age is the principal determinant of significant.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. You don't know that, or you know that it's not?
No, I don't know that. Could I take it as homework? We can discuss it next week, Waleed. Yep.
Our time.
Okay.
So when I see you in a week,
we can talk about significant trees in the National Register.
It'll be some padding time so we can get some calls. And you've inspired a lot of people over your observation that there's no justice subject in a law degree. Chelsea wants to know, please excuse my ignorance, but how can there be no training in justice within a law degree? Why is it not implicit to law? It sort of is.
It is. It would be nice if it was explicit, but we run an adversarial system.
Yeah.
And I was reading a judgment in the Supreme Court the other day where someone ran a particular argument but acting for themselves, produced no evidence, and you get from the judgment that basically said, well, if you'd argued that, I might have been able to consider it, but you didn't, so I can't. So it's not the role of the court in our system to seek truth, but rather to balance the claims that are presented to it.
But that's an administration of justice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
whereas if you have the Napoleonic Code, you have the French system, it's exercise in truth-seeking,
yes,
in theory.
Inquisitorial,
yes,
etc.
Yeah.
We should have a segment on that.
Oof.
Oh, what a topic.
I've given you all I know already. Well,
is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
We've done the segment. Perfect.
Yes.
Can we move away from neighbour stuff for a bit? Stephen has called in from Rockbank with something slightly different. Hi, Stephen.
G'day, Wally. G'day, David. A month ago my son was involved in a car accident. He received 2 fines from the police officer that attended the accident. One of the fines was for driving an unroadworthy vehicle. He was given a $470 fine.
Yes.
He since has paid that fine. Now, last week he got a letter and an email from the police officer stating that the money that he's paid's been put back in my son's bank account because there was an error in the amount of the fine. and the fine was actually $750, and they're asking for that amount. Do we have to pay that?
He got a ticket, did he, with a little box
got a
ticked in the
ticket.
amount?
I haven't seen it, but I believe so, yes. Yes.
And the ticket, handwritten $470. That's some more homework, I'm afraid, Stephen. I'm really interested in the answer to that question, so I will tell you. All right?
Excellent. Thank
Where
you
they
very
fill
much.
out a fine, they put an amount of money and they get it wrong. I'll let you know. Sorry, how long ago was the accident?
It was about a month ago,
Okay,
David.
all right,
Yeah.
because I don't want to worry about a limitation period.
Yep,
Thanks, Stephen.
Yep, no worries at all. Thank you. Bye.
More homework. This is excellent. Esther is in Malvern. Hi, Esther.
Yeah, hi. Hello.
Oh,
Can
hi.
you hear me all right?
We can.
Yes.
You're on the air.
Yeah, good. I have a block of flats, which is very nice, but there was a burst water main, and the water company said that because it feeds my flats exclusively, I have to pay the $30,000 bill for the repair.
Yes.
And I've spoken to the Ombudsman, and I believe that previously on your calls there was somebody talking about a similar thing, and that there are precedents.
Esther, you need to understand that while there's a water main inside your property, you technically are responsible for all of the works from the point that the water leaves the main. So the water main will be under the street somewhere. There will be a connection that feeds your property, but the meter will be inside your property. If they are your works, you are responsible for the repairs.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions regarding that.
Yes.
How am I able to ensure maintenance when it's, in public common area? And
But when you say a public common area, do you mean outside your property or inside your property?
correct.
Which?
Outside my property.
No, sorry. No. In theory, at least, Esther, it's up to you to maintain it. So what you would need to do is you could presumably put some kind of camera down to look at it, but that would be a bit hard with the water pressure. The other thing you could do would be dig up the street and check it periodically, but that strikes me as madness. So it's your pipe. It's under the street. It's probably only going to break down once every 50 or 60 years. What kind of maintenance would you do on it on a regular basis?
Okay, the next question is that I'm at the mercy of that company, that they didn't get quotes. They just said, this is how much it's going to cost, without giving me...
What are we going to do about the water damage that's going to occur while we wait a couple of weeks to get some quotes? So how soon after the water meter broke, or before the problem arose, did they put a crew in the property or on the street to fix the problem?
I immediately authorised that a neighbour cooperated, and we were able to supply water to the tenants of the property, but
there is a water problem underneath the footpath or underneath the road. How long do you think that people should, that the water company should wait to fix the problem? What they have is they have contracted maintenance crews that they call out at rates, and you'll find that they enter into long-term maintenance agreements that fix what those rates are for the work that they do. So it's not, I've got a problem outside Esther's block of flats. It's, I've got a problem, here's the address, go and fix it.
Yeah.
All right.
So you think that it's not...
I think you're fighting a losing battle, Esther. I would let them go.
Sorry, Esther, but that's the answer that David's given. We can't do anything more than that.
I know, I'll go and do my homework, Wally.
You will do your homework. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Without homework. We'll see you with some next week. And thank you to all our callers. Apologies to the ones we didn't get to. It is a perennial problem. Is it a problem? I guess it is with this segment. There's so much more demand than there is supply. 1300 222 774, though, is the number generally. Write that down. You can call next week.